All right, man. Thank you for returning. My name is Jeff Staten, and this is Pressing Toward the Mark. Today, we're going to discuss the concept of mindfulness. Now, I get it. Don't look at me like I'm crazy. I get it. Oftentimes, when you discuss mindfulness, it brings up memories of or knowledge of the Eastern religions. They tend to be really focused on mindfulness. Hinduism, Buddhism, those guys. But I don't think that they own the concept of mindfulness. I really believe that the Bible teaches us, instructs us about the necessity of being mindful. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Let's get started. The Bible and mindfulness. One love. All right, man, let's get started. Let's get you your understanding of what mindfulness is and how it applies to you as a believer, as a person that believes in Jesus the Messiah. Not necessarily because you are involved in any Eastern religion, but as a person of faith, a person of faith in the Messiah, Jesus himself. All right. So when I explain mindfulness, I'm going to dissect it into two categories. All right. Now, that first category is mindfulness requires you. It is your responsibility to notice and to recognize your thoughts. Right. And that's kind of in the name. Yeah. Mindfulness, for you to be aware, to be mindful of your thoughts. Because if you don't already know, you will learn shortly that your mind is an unruly member. It's all over the place, man. It's never in one spot. It's a mystery, the mind. Scientists can't even tell you where thoughts come from, right? But what they do know about the mind is that it's very busy. And one of its favorite hobby is time travel. Your mind loves jumping into the past and revisiting what was said and what happened and how you felt back then and what was your thoughts in that moment, what you should have done, right? It loves jumping into the past and wallowing in that, right? And then what? It jumps into the future and makes you anxious about tomorrow. How are you going to? Will I ever be? You know? So your mind does this annoying pendulum swing. Past, future, past, future. And that is the fundamental reason why you are stressed. That causes stress. Right? You know this. What happened when you lost your job? Your mind immediately jumped into the future and told you you're not going to be able to pay your bills. Your mind immediately jumped into the future and says, what are you going to do about your loan? What are you going to do about your business? Immediately it jumped into the future. Right? Why aren't you married? Why aren't you with somebody right now? Because you're still in the past, visiting what happened, what was said, right? And your involvement in what happened to you is having an effect on you in this moment, right? Well, mindfulness tells you to pay attention to that, to pay attention to those movies that you create in your head. Those movies where you it's so vivid, those movies, that time passes and you don't even know it because you've been so involved in the past and in the future. Mindfulness says be aware of that. To make sure you know when you've started a movie in your head, when you've started paying attention to something that you shouldn't, right? Let's look at a Bible verse that explains it better than I can, man. Let's look at 2 Corinthians. We're going to look at 2 Corinthians, the 10th chapter, and just a few verses. We're going to start at the 3rd verse and end at the 5th verse. So 2 Corinthians, the 10th chapter, 3 through 5, and it reads as follows. For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. Verse 5. Casting down imaginations. I'm going to say that again. Casting down imaginations, and every high thing that exalteth itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captivity. I'm going to say that one again. And bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. We're going to focus on verse 5, obviously. Verse 5 gives us 2 instructions, and the first instruction is to cast down imaginations. And I love the fact that this verse uses the word imaginations. We're not talking about simple thoughts, right? We're not talking about simple momentary thoughts in your mind. We're talking about those strong imaginations, strong ruminations, strong computations that you're involved in. So vivid, like I said, that 10 minutes passes by and you don't even know, because you've been so involved in that movie in your head, reliving the fact that you've been a victim, right? And the same thing with the future. You've already imagined yourself living in your car. You've already imagined yourself with the embarrassment of losing everything that you have, right? Well, this verse tells you to cast down those imaginations, right? And I love the fact that it uses the word cast, because the word cast gives you a sense of urgency, that this thing needs to be away from you quickly and urgently, right? And in the same fashion that you would cast a snake that had fallen on your shoulder. How would you throw away a snake that had just suddenly fallen on your shoulder? You would get rid of it like there's no tomorrow, right? What happens? What would you do if you found a large spider on you? You would cast it down, right? So this word cast is instructing us to get rid of these imaginations as if it was with an urgency. An urgency because, number one, snakes and spiders are disgusting, right? This word cast wants us to recognize the disgusting nature of your imaginations, that it's tainting you, is below you, right? It's tainting the way that you think. It's tainting the way that you perform. It's tainting the way that God can and cannot use you. It's disgusting. Throw it away. And this word cast also focuses on the harmful nature of what's affecting you or what's on you. That snake can kill you. That snake can harm you. And because you know that, you would get rid of it with some urgency. Well, likewise, those imaginations, those movies that you attend in your head are equally as harmful to you. And this verse is telling you to cast it down. Get rid of it with urgency, like there's no tomorrow. All right? What's the second order that this verse tells us in verse 5? The second half of the verse says, bringing into captivity every thought. That's pretty simple, yeah? This verse is telling us to bring into captivity. Anytime that you have an enemy in captivity, that's the enemy. That is an opposition that you don't have to worry about anymore. That enemy, that opposition, no longer can affect you, can no longer affect your life, can no longer affect how you live your life, will no longer in any way alter your thoughts, alter your behavior, because you have control over it and it doesn't have control over you. So this verse is telling you to bring your thoughts under control. All of those crazy thoughts, all those crazy, again, movies that you create in your head, bring those into captivity so that it's not having the type of effect that it's having on you today. You know, casting down imaginations, bringing thoughts into captivity is a great thing, or two wonderful things, right? But you can't do that if you don't recognize your thoughts. You can't capture anything or anybody if you can't recognize it, right? So, in essence, what this verse 5 is telling you to do is to be mindful of your thoughts. Recognize those imaginations. Recognize those thoughts. So it's your responsibility to be aware of your thoughts. It's your responsibility to bring into subjection all of your imaginations and all of those ridiculous thoughts that are affecting you. Now, what is the second aspect of mindfulness? Well, now that you know that your mind has the tendency to swing like a pendulum, it's now time for you to stop that. It's now time for you to stop that habit your mind has in time travel. Stop it from visiting the past, stop it from visiting the future, and make sure your mind understands that the most important time, the most important moment is in this moment right now. Right? And it's not an easy thing. Don't let me make you think that because I said it's your responsibility too, that it's some snap of the finger type situation. No, it is difficult. You have to train your mind. You have to bring your mind under subjection, be conscious of your thoughts, and bring it under subjection often, right? But you have to train your mind that there isn't anything for it in the past and in the future, that everything it needs to be concerned about is in this moment, right? That's its only alternative, right? We don't want it in the past. We don't want it in the future. The only thing left is now. So we want to train our minds to focus on right now in this moment. Okay? Let's look at some more verses, some Bible verses that explains that better than I can. Let's go to Psalms. Psalms, the 46th chapter. And we're just going to read one verse in Psalms. Psalms 46:10. And it reads as follows: Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the heathen. I will be exalted in the earth. We're going to focus on that word, be still. Right? So, by a show of hands, when you read that word, those words, be still, how many of you thinks that God is telling us not to move? To not physically move? How many of you believe when God says be still, He wants you to be a mannequin, a statue? Is that what He's saying? Well, if he's not talking about your bodily movements, then what needs to be still? Your mind. This verses is telling us to make sure that our mind is still, that our mind is focused, is resting in this moment, because this is the most important moment for your mind. Why? Well, let's look at another verse. Let's look at another Bible verse that explains why right now, this moment is the most important moment for your mind. Let's look at Isaiah, the 26th chapter and the 3rd verse. Isaiah 26 and the 3rd verse, and it reads as follows: Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed. Whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusteth in thee. So this verse is encouraging us to have a stayed mind. A stayed mind is also a sustained mind. Sustained meaning no fluctuations. A stayed mind is a resting mind. A stayed mind is a mind that is leaning upon something. When you place a gardening tool against a tree, that tree has stayed that tool. That tool is stayed by the tree. Right? So this verse is encouraging us to have a stayed mind. Have a mind that's not fluctuating. Have a mind that is propped up against something. A mind that is still. Why? Why is it so important for your mind to be still? Because this verse says it is in the stayed mind that you obtain what? Perfect peace. It is in when your mind is not swinging like a pendulum. It is in that in the stillness of your mind that you achieve perfect peace. It is when your mind is focused on right here and right now that it can erase all of your fears, that it can erase all of the stress, that it can start erasing all the damage that your worry has caused in your life. The gout, the ulcers, the nightmares, the headaches, all of those things are created by that pendulum swinging of your mind. But this verse is telling us it is within a stayed mind, a still mind, a mind that is focusing on right now, that you can achieve perfect peace. Now listen, again, it is not lost on me that this isn't an easy task, right? Because not only is your mind busy, but it's pretty tricky. It's pretty tricky. I've been meditating for close to 10 years, and I can't tell you how many times that I've woken up in meditation and realizing that I've been lost in moving my mind. 5-10 minutes. So the brain is sneaky. It'll sneak in those thoughts. But it is your responsibility to be aware of those thoughts, to be aware of the journey that it tries to take you on, and to bring it into subjection. Right? So what did we say today? Mindfulness has two categories. One, your responsibility to notice your thoughts, to recognize those thoughts. Not just simple thoughts, but those deep ruminations, those imaginations. All right? And number two, You have to bring your thoughts and your mind into captivity so that it's not affecting you in this moment, and to bring it into captivity so that it will recognize that the only thing that it should be concerned about is this moment. Because it is in this moment, not the past, not tomorrow, but this moment is where you will find perfect peace. It's a battle, and it's a battle worth fighting for. Right? All right, man. That's all I got. I hope you recognize that the Bible also expects us to be mindful. The Bible also expects us to be aware of our thoughts. The Bible also expects us to still our minds. All right? I gotta go. All right? If I said anything today that has helped you, let me know in the comments, man. If I've said something that you don't agree with, put that in the comments. Right? And if you're not good at typing, just click the thumbs up or thumbs down. I'll get the message. Right? Share video. There are a lot of people right now battling in a war with their thoughts. It would help them, do them really good to know that they can cast down those imaginations and bring those thoughts in captivity and achieve perfect peace. All right. And last but not least, man, for those of you, not last but not least, subscribe. Most importantly, if you don't do anything else, if you don't do all the other stuff, subscribe to the channel, man. Sign up. And last but not least, really though, after you've subscribed, click the bell icon and it will indicate to you when other videos have been posted. Man, I say it every week. Man, I mean it every week. Thank you for showing up today. My name is Jeff Staten, and this is Pressing Toward the Mark. One love.